Perfect. Good to see you, Ricky.
Great to see you as well, Emily. Excited to be here today.
So to get us started, I would love if you could talk a little bit about your past experience before you made the move over to Vistaprint as Chief Marketing Officer. My understanding is you were at Nike for about 20 years. So curious to learn and hear from you what was some of the best parts and experiences you had at Nike to bring over to Vistaprint.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here today. Always a treat to get to do a Brand Innovators event. For me, Nike was an amazing 20 years. We got to work on some absolutely amazing, never been done before things. And I think what was exciting about it was just this ability to truly imagine a future that could be better for athletes. And that idea that our job was to know the athlete, to serve them, and remove friction from any part of their life that prevented them from maximizing their potential. And I think that what was interesting to me was like, by being there for so long, you see that sometimes things fail, not because they were wrong, but because they were early. And that maybe that generations change fast. That what a 16-year-old basketball player wanted when they were in 1999 might be different than what they wanted in 2009. And that notion that things evolve fast was an absolutely critical component that I took from it, and that you could play a much larger role than just the item being the end of a transaction, but rather it becoming the beginning of a relationship. And I think that's something that when I began to think about what would be after Nike for me, really that opportunity to be able to take that same passion and understanding of how to serve an audience, a community, and help be able to bring great design to the world, help be able to help small businesses with something that was so incredibly interesting. As that opportunity to be able to help democratize and give access to what's formerly unreachable, be it getting someone ready for their first 10K or first half marathon, or helping someone figure out how to open a pizza shop, or those options that kind of exist in the same parallel. Yeah. And that idea of being able to really truly help even the playing field is so incredibly interesting and exciting. It's something that ultimately led me to make the leap to Vistaprint. But again, it's interesting. It's to me, the way we approach things every single day on how we want to serve our customer at Vistaprint is no different than the same way we thought every day on how we might want to serve a 16-year-old basketball player or a beginning runner. And the expectation that the work we do should have as much impact in the world is something I think is the way that I think everyone should approach their job. Like, there's no reason that inspiration and impact is something that's only something Apple could do or only something that Nike could do. I think a large part of it is aspiration to actually make that impact. And it's something that, and having a great product and a great service and a belief in serving customers. And it's something I think is important to bring every single day.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you mentioned that. I know Vistaprint has, since you've joined the team there, you've been working to reposition the brand, and you've had some pretty exciting campaigns in market over the past year. I would love if you could talk a little bit about This Is Not a Mask campaign and how that came to life and how that fits into the broader positioning that you've been focused on since you joined the team.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, so I'd been at the company around 5 months 5 or 6 months when the pandemic hit. And we were working on this work that was, for Vistaprint had existed for a really long time as the seller of business cards, the company that helped you get your first business cards, a lot of DRTV, discount codes. And then was a company that impacted a lot of people's lives. It was the amount of people we meet with that are like, when you all called about working with us or emailed, it was so exciting because we knew we were a small agency, that we were real when we got our first business cards from Vistaprint. And it became abundantly clear that this opportunity was there, that like, to a large extent, we're a partner in people's dreams. And what was interesting was, so we started working on these campaigns of trying to play up more of like if items to solutions or us as a partner, which all holds true. And then the pandemic hits, and it's difficult to say, think back to last March, like no one knew what the next 9 months were going to be, or the next week, the next 2 weeks. I'll never forget leaving the office and having someone be like, hey, you don't need to grab all your stuff. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And like they were really wrong.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, oh, school, like we're going to have school closed for 2 days and for deep cleaning. And that deep cleaning went for 8 months. Right. And so, but what we realized in early April of last year was, based upon the global nature of Vistaprint and Cimpress, our parent company, the supply chain that we had was going to allow us to actually help make masks at scale around the world, a very high quality, great mask that was going to be fairly priced, great design, and something that was going to be absolutely critical. We'd heard from our colleagues in China and our colleagues in Italy that masks had just become the new normal overnight. And at this time, so our leadership team are like, myself and the CEO are like, we've got to go and do this. And we worked with partners like Work & Co to create an amazing new experience to, again, design forward. We worked with partners like Champ out of LA to help get different artists to go and design masks. Because our point of view was, if we're gonna, as to where we are heading, that was gonna be so critical was that everyone got comfortable with masks and access to masks, and understanding that the best way for a community to reopen, for a small business to safely operate, is not for the barista to feel like when the door opens at the bakery or coffee shop that they're gonna have to get in a fight with a customer about wearing a mask, but get everyone to understand we're all in this together. And the best way to get back to the things you love is by embracing that masks are that key to it. And it was a very different place for Vistaprint to go, because Vistaprint had been selling items and not going on the understanding the role we played in truly helping impact the greater community we existed in and help being an advocate for small businesses. And it was something that, if you think back to last April, you couldn't run mask ads on Facebook or Google because it was viewed that mask sales were stealing precious needed masks from healthcare workers, which in a great irony might have been, in some regards, was true. Mm-hmm. But the lack of masks getting adopted was creating more issues of for healthcare workers. Yes. And so we went and made an ad, "This is not a mask," which would tell the story of like the importance of masks as part of a community. This is not a mask, it's a sign of love. And all of a sudden found ourselves in a bit of a political firestorm for a bit. And our performance, our display team every day had to come in and repost all of our ads, because even though we were told they were approved, each day it would get removed overnight based upon systems. And it was a unique, interesting time for us. And multiple times in the journey, we thought masks were going to be done in like 2 weeks. It's like, oh, in 2 weeks from now, everything will be fine. And well, we kept plugging away, and I'm incredibly proud of, like, when you walk down the street now, and maybe it's just me noticing, like, I can't go 2 blocks without seeing someone in a Vistaprint mask. My favorite bagel shop down the street, Exodus Bagels, every Saturday, each has their own custom, different color mask. During the election, watching reporters on MSNBC, one after another, wearing custom or artist Vistaprint masks. my kids each day fight over which mask to wear, and all their classmates have Vistaprint masks. And like, I can't imagine what life would be like if for the last 5 months, every morning I had to beg my kids to wear masks to school because they're not allowed to go otherwise. Instead, every morning I'm breaking up fights over who gets the rainbow mask or the skeleton mask. And so again, for us, it was so important to be able to understand that it wasn't just about trying to sell a mask, but it was about trying to get communities reopened safely, and that we could play a much larger role in that conversation that I think we would have given ourselves credit for pre-pandemic.
Sure. And I think it's pretty interesting. You mentioned serving communities and supporting the local businesses was your mission before. That really didn't change, just how Vistaprint responded and came out with the mask campaign to really bring that to life, which is pretty incredible. So we've been working with Vistaprint a bit over the past year, and I've been incredibly impressed by your marketing organization and how you collaborate with agencies, but are super sophisticated internally. Just curious how your approach has been brought into life with your new efforts around branding and bringing this revamped strategy to life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I appreciate the compliment on our team. Our team, super lucky to have an
They're really
amazing
impressive,
team.
yeah.
It's interesting. So at Nike, we work with a lot of agencies. Vistaprint did not work with many agencies outside of on some aspects of the media side before. And I'm a big believer in agencies helping push to the edge and being an extension of an extension and accelerator to the superpowers you have internally. I would never say one of our agencies is in charge of our advertising or our media or our UX or our PR. I would say they are an extension of our team who is in charge of figuring out our PR strategy, our media. Sure. And it has to be this collaborative relationship where I've been super lucky to work with some unbelievable agencies where our account director to me would have been the person I most trusted to replace me in a meeting because we were just inextricably linked. Mm-hmm. We were texting 100 times a day on things. But I think what's important is understanding that companies internally always will look internally more frequently than externally. We could push on it as much as you want. You could push to look for analogous inspiration, for benchmarking. But if you're an agency, you are surrounded by peers that are working on other accounts. That's job it is to make sure that every single day they understand what is evolving in the world. And again, I can't stress enough, I think they have the same expectations for internal teams. But I think that there's just a reality that there's just less consistent external cross-pollination. And there's also something to be said for, particularly on the media side, the media agencies represent a significant amount of business with partners that I think helps open the door on unique, interesting opportunities. I believe in us as a brand as well for it, but ultimately, again, I don't view it as, I view that a hybrid model. Now, things like we have an amazing performance display team internally, like particularly when you get into real-time payback optimizations and triangulation between a performance display team, a data analytics team, and finance team, you need to have those things internally. But to me, the external partners, and again, I can't stress enough, I view everyone as like, there's no word I hate more than the word vendor. Like, everyone is.
We can agree on that 100%. We don't want to be a vendor.
Like, yeah. And that's like these partners, we're going to do amazing things together, and it's important to treat agencies as partners and part of the team as much as possible. Yeah. And again, I think it's something that's hopefully, if we're all bought into this aspirational journey of where we want to go and go do and challenge to do amazing work, great things happen. And so, yeah, and again, I think it's a balancing act always, but so much of it comes down to, and it's an extension of your internal team, and they are part of the team and partners in this.
Absolutely. I would love to hear your perspective. So understanding Vistaprint's strategy in the past was much more DR oriented, and you did have a large linear play. How are you guys thinking about shifting your channel investment, and how are you thinking about CTV versus TV, knowing your historical investment in linear has been rather significant, and the shift in consumer behavior is changing?
So Vistaprint a was very much a company focused on large amounts of DRTV in the past, paid search, non-branded. And I think a big shift has been pushing towards digital. When you look at the opportunities that exist inside at all touch points of a YouTube, it's incredibly impactful and interesting for us to be able to become great at that. From a learning agenda standpoint, connected TV has so much potential for us and so much more data that comes off of it than traditional linear television does at this moment. I mean, obviously there's ways with it with the eye spots in the world and stuff like that. But I also just think the pressure of television and linear TV is a unique beast, and that in order to get the frequency, the minimum bar is just so high sometimes for high impact placements. And I think so we have dabbled in things like we have this campaign, Partners in an Ever-Changing World, that I think is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. I'm a little biased there, but it makes me laugh.
Understandable.
And like, we're like, you know what? This is a great ad for us to test on Saturday Night Live and put it on linear SNL, but the next week put it on more on the Peacock and YouTube replays. Okay. And we're able to compare and contrast the learnings and see. And so right now, I think to a large extent, we look at a lot of this as a learning year for us. But we definitely love the potential that connected TV has, but there are some platforms where we know there are significant amounts of small business owners that have massive overlap with our existing customers and tons of small business owners that are not our customers yet that we need to go and get great at. And I like the flexibility of a digital and CTV first model more so than the pressure of, all right, we've bought this 30, that ad better be amazing or else something's going to run one way or the other. As there is there's no refunds. Now, again, I think it's something where we'll learn more and more over time. Again, I can't stress enough, like from a DRTV standpoint, it did an amazing job for Vistaprint over the years. But ultimately, from where we need to go from a repositioning standpoint, an introduction of new small businesses, it would be tough to rebuild and reposition a brand just swapping out creative in an existing footprint.
Yes, and it doesn't have the audience test and learn framework that you can leverage through connected television and your digital partners, right? Yep. Like the flexibility just isn't there. It just has me thinking, I loved that we were able to incorporate the NBA finals and Celtics relationship that Vistaprint has as part of our digital strategy most recently. So it's pretty cool to see that brought to life.
Yeah, it was exciting to be able to get that as part of the test this past season.
Yes. I'm curious, from this past year being all that it was, what would you say is something that stands out as being a really like a wow moment from working with your team outside of the Mask for All campaign?
There were so many different things. I mean, I think the Celtics partnership's a unique one for us in that it's new terrain for us, but we really challenged ourselves to make sure that it wasn't just about a logo patch on the jersey, but it was about truly having our sponsorship be co-owned with small businesses. Right. And so the idea that like when fans got back in the signage for Vistaprint was given to a small business of the game. and they would get honored at the game in an Instagram post. And you would watch them share their in great seats to the game. And this idea that we were able to create a moment that, in what probably was an awful year for most small business owners,
Yeah.
a moment to say, you are recognized, and hopefully this is an exclamation point on the journey, is something that from moment one of our first conversation with Celtics was the types of things we want to do. Like, it was about last June, we donated $500,000 to NAACP. But when we donated to them, we said, we don't want to just donate the money. We want to create a program that's about empowerment for Black-owned small businesses and giving grants to them that would help with the challenges they faced through COVID, and as well as money for design needs and marketing needs. And then, rather than it just being us doing this, we actually brought the Celtics into that and created a Power Forward program where it's us, the NAACP, and the Celtics creating a program that will be this evergreen program, where we've done fundraisers for the program at this point, and we'll continue to do things like that. It's also things like, when I think about the importance for us of design, we went and bought 99 designs during the pandemic. Like, the idea of buying a company in Australia remotely sounds crazy, but like, it's not just we bought them. Like, we're rolling out a program, 99 days of design, where we're working with like partners like Complex, partners like Refinery 29, Claima, it was amazing career podcast aimed at BIPOC creators. Little White Lies out of the UK, 100 Thieves, the gaming platform or collective, to pick 99 different small businesses and redo their identity and help them launch or pivot or launch on their journey. And this unique opportunity to create these platforms that storytelling that allows for so much unique, interesting storytelling, where it's not just us, it's us and the partner doing it, is so absolutely critical for us.
And it doesn't seem like you're slowing down with any of these initiatives as we head into the new year. What are some of the learnings that you're most excited about taking on into the rest of this year, now that we're coming out of the pandemic and people are back, entering slowly back into reality? What have you seen with your team, and what are you most excited about now?
Doing it all again. But in the pandemic, we switched to remote first, which has allowed us to begin to hire all over the world. We've hired amazing talent from world-class companies. We've hired from Netflix and from Target, Outdoor Voices, Nike, so on and so forth, where it's nice to not have the first question be, would you be willing to move to Boston?
Right.
Or would you be willing to move to Barcelona, where one of our other offices is? And I think it's something where what that impact of remote first means is so massive for us.
I'm just thinking, like, the amount of meetings we honestly had with your marketing team and your partners. Normally those would have required travel, which we're obviously more than happy to do, but the amount of integrated media planning we did together, the amount of brainstorming, pretty incredible to see across companies.
Yeah, and again, it's something where I have someone that's worked for us for the last 6 months that I talk to 5 times a day. She's based in Austin. I think we'll meet sometime this year.
Yeah.
But again, it's really exciting for us because it also helps us bring in a unique perspective of all the different small businesses around the world. It's not just what's happening in the suburbs of Boston,
right,
or in Barcelona, where we had a large office.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. As far as, I know we talked a bit about connected television and channel strategy. Are there any new channels that you guys are considering investing in for the first time, knowing your media mix before it's evolving as your audience strategy evolves? Are you thinking about podcasts? Are you thinking about audio? Are you thinking about digital out of home? What's top of mind as like new and exciting channels for Vistaprint?
Yeah, I think a big test for us right now is more of the branded co-created partnership with publishers is something that I'm really excited for. The types of things we're creating bespoke with a complex are very different than being like, here is a 15. Where can we get good impressions with this on your platform? Now, not all of those will become the perfect thing, but that idea of truly trying to partner and deepen with publishers and communities is exciting for us. And I think the same holds true with podcasts. We've gone back into podcasts with 99 Designs by Vistaprint, things like 99% Invisible, Song Exploder, and just unique, interesting ways we're excited for. But we feel like it's just, it's exciting. I mean, we were having this conversation a year ago. I don't think a thing in my mind would have been like, what's our Clubhouse strategy going to be? Clubhouse it was like 1,000 people on Clubhouse at that point. And in the same way that sometimes at night, I just go on TikTok and watch Vistaprint unboxing videos.
TikTok wormholes, those are real. Yeah.
And so I think what's so important is just to continually understanding that the destination of being a partner doesn't change, but the route that might take us there will continually evolve. And I think how we take our best practices and our learnings and build off of those is going to be so important. But again, I look at what we've done with the Celtics, and it's now the bar for us for any partner conversation of what does it mean when we say we want to be a partner. It means we want to be able to truly co-create with you all. We want to be able to have small businesses be a part of it. And that bar is a high bar we're trying to set. But I think hopefully it helps partners truly understand what we're looking for. We truly understand what we're looking for, as it's, I think doing one thing's nice, doing 10 of them, 100 of them adds up and accumulates.
Right.
And I think that's what's important for us. I mean, you could take, I think every company faces the dilemma of, if you have $100 and you divide it by 10 or divide it by 100, it might not feel that impactful. But if you put that $100 in one place, you can make a massive impact. And
you're
that's
really focused on doing the partnerships well and right and deep to create that experience and impact the communities, it seems.
And then to know which audience you're going to go after with it. I think those are the things we're constantly trying to balance, is like, where is a first learning that you could then go deep with and become famous for something? And where are you ready to go and become famous with? And then figuring out where does just the blocking and tackling of mid-funnel magic that needs to happen.
Absolutely. The test, learn, pivot strategy, but doing it strategically, it seems, is really exciting. So we have 10 minutes left. There's a few questions. If we're good to jump to Q&A, does that work for you?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Okay, so as leaders, you are always developing your abilities. What skills would you like your marketing team to develop this year?
I think collaborating, the ability to have ambiguity, be comfortable with ambiguity, and turn that into concrete things on the right timeline, but not trying to rush through the ambiguity is important. Like, if you and I got on a whiteboard right now, would we crack what's the perfect strategy for what we should do on Spotify or TikTok?
As much as I'd like to say, yes, I don't know.
In 20 minutes or less, I don't know if we crack it. But it doesn't mean it's not something that needs to be cracked. Right. And I think that's something that's really important is the ability to understand that some things take time, and the ability to collaborate across an organization. And I think most importantly, though, it is truly loving our customer and understanding their needs, their pain. Like, you will never waste time spent trying to understand the life of the customer. That doesn't mean that the customer is going to be able to name exactly what the perfect solution is that they need, but you'll definitely understand the pain points that exist that we need to go and try to solve for. And I think that's something where, in some ways, the pandemic, I think, helped flatten out the ability to connect with the customers, but in other ways, people were stuck in their homes for a really long time. I think and so I think that's something where in the next year, I hope the world of the customer and truly wanting to serve them is the thing that we're able to focus in on.
I love it. And I completely agree with what you said about being there to solve the problem. If you can do nothing else, I think as a partner in general, regardless of your role in this ecosystem, just being there to help solve problems is key, and winning your clients' trust. So next question, what experiences best prepared you for the leadership role that you are in today? And how do you empower your own team to take ownership of their role?
And I think so many different experiences have been about transformational change, and that the importance of dreaming as big as you can, as far out as you can, setting the boat or car in that direction, hiring the best people possible, and trying to motivate them to do the best work they possibly can to get there. And it sounds overly simple, but try to do amazing things, hire awesome people for it, and do everything you can to get things out of the way that prevent that is a pretty decent, repeatable model.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
Easier said than done. I personally also think you could trying to do that without being a complete and total jerk to people goes a long way as well.
Makes it a little better.
Yep. But I think ultimately people want to do amazing things and work on large challenges. And I think if you're able to show what you can be, what the potential is, and try to encourage that downwards, that if everyone on our team feels like over the next 2 years, they got to do the best work of their career, and they were all heading in the general same direction, something good has to happen.
Absolutely.
And I think that, and I try to keep it as simple as can be on that. It's like, we're not going to solve everything in a day, but as long as, again, what's the destination we enter into ways, and what route we go on to get there are two different things. The destination is not going to change, but the route will evolve. And I think that's where having as many talented people and partners as possible, all pushing in that same direction, is something that I saw time and time again in my career, where some of the best leaders I worked for were like, hey, the Olympics aren't going to move. We need to go and change the world for the Olympics 2 years from now. There's 4 of you. Tell us what it's going to take to do that. And there's something about, I mean, there's nothing wrong with optimizing. Optimizing is just as exciting in its own unique way, but trying to understand where you're trying to go from a moonshot standpoint as a company, and getting to understand the role you play in it, and then getting to go do that job is exciting.
Totally. And doing it with good energy and not being a jerk is always.
Those are, right? I'd like to think they're the minimum requirements of things.
100%.
It's been a long year for a lot of people.
Yeah, fair. Semi-related to that, how would you say your leadership style has changed over the past few months or past year? And how have you been able to develop more personal relationships with your colleagues and partners?
It's interesting. I think to some extent, you just can't fake many things in this environment. Like I've been interrupted by my kids. Oh, sorry, what was it?
I said like my dog barking throughout this conversation.
Exactly.
You can't fake it. No, it's happening.
Like I've had kids crash board meetings. I've had kids crash all hands meetings. I've had.
It's like you try.
Yeah. And the reality is like, I don't want to say, oh, that humanizes them. Their kid crashed naked into a board meeting.
Right. You're like, not ideal. Not ideal.
Yeah. Humanizing / mortifyingly embarrassing.
Right. Yeah.
But I do think trying to keep some understanding of you never know what people have each day. Totally. And ultimately, I've been a big believer for a long time in do your job, do it awesome, be nice to people. The rest of it, who really cares? If you
it all shakes out
2 a.m,
yeah,
great. If you don't, like, ultimately, I get nervous. Now, again, I have to say, but there are realities and that people can accidentally work around the clock. Like, there will always be something more to do. This Friday, actually, to piggyback on the US holiday on Monday, we added in a mental health day for Friday, because what we've realized over the last year is that encouraging people to take PTO is cool and great, but getting people to take PTO is tough. It's and particularly if we're excited for things, but also when you're on PTO, the other work keeps going.
Right. So I recently learned this. Yes.
You get back and you're like, oh my God, there's all these emails. And someone's like, oh, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you on PTO. And so as a leadership team, we talked a couple weeks ago, like, look, we got to have a company break for where, so no one feels like they're coming back behind, but can just be a straight up Friday to Monday, like nothing will be piling up in that time.
Right.
And I think those are types of things where, like, I don't know if we could have had those conversations and not made people look like they were complaining 2 years ago. But I think everyone's able to have the conversation like, I can't wait for Friday and not have a single Zoom and to feel guilty if I were to actually reach out to anyone. Not because I don't love work,
no,
but
I
it's always going to be there. So I don't know. Again, that's one of the things that from a leadership style changing standpoint, it's like understanding that like we're all in this together. And I'm excited again, the journey's been awesome so far, but we got a long way to go in the journey and we can't run out of gas for it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all the work your team did this
thanks,
year.
Emily.
Yeah, we're excited to partner with you all and thank you for your time and the conversation.
Well, hey, thank you for having me. Thank you, David and Brand Innovators crew for having me.
This was great. Ricky, seriously, always, we love having you here. It's so insightful. You're so inspirational. Emily, wonderful job, leading this conversation. I know I took away a lot, from the emotional connections you guys are forging with your partners as, right, your dream makers, you're helping them start their businesses. I love that. And, building on the performance work to everything that we're talking about. Who can't relate to? I mean, there's got to be like a dozen people at Brand Innovators at this point that we've grown over the last year that I haven't met, that haven't been to an in-person Brand Innovators event, right? Like, I'm excited for them, and there's all these, cultural, things in that respect. So we relate to it, and we always appreciate your insight. So thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Emily. We'll have you both back.